Yoga for pelvic floor health. So, this practice is designed to bring you more awareness with what is down there and how it is important for the quality of our life and how fully we want to experience different movements and different practices, perhaps that advanced yoga pose, or maybe just running and hiking without those oops incidents or feeling out of control. So, the pelvic floor is such an amazing part of the body. It is the core of the body just by how it's positioned. It's in the center. And it has 5 functions that at least I will mention today and explore kind of some variations of those functions and help you get in touch with what's down there. And my goal for you is to empower you with this knowledge and with this new relationship of your pelvic floor and how important it is. So the 5 functions are our pelvic floor supports our pelvic organs, and there are quite a few of them there. So that's why it's called basin or the bowl. So it supports a lot of pelvic organs. Support. Stabilize. It stabilizes our spine. So right, this is our spine and the pelvis, and then we have those legs down there. Stabilizes our pelvic. Stabilizes our spine, our side joints, our head, our legs. So it also has a sexual function and it has a function of what it's called a sump pump. And every time we breathe, so we have a respiratory diaphragm and then we have a pelvic floor diaphragm. So they are moving together in unison. So on inhalation, they're moving down and muscles of the pelvic floor lengthen and relax. And on exhalation, they are moving up and muscles of the pelvic floor just contract. Okay, gently with a breath, moving the lymph and creating that sump pump motion. So that's pretty cool, right? So that's why a lot of times we refer to this area as a canister. Okay, so that's our sump pump. And it also has a function of a sphincter, so helping us eliminate when we want to or not eliminate when we don't want to, not to go to the bathroom. So again, the 5 functions are support, stabilize, sphincter, sexual function, and sump pump. All right, so here's your functions of the pelvic floor. And you can see how if one of those functions is off, that's gonna impact the quality of our life. It also impacts the parts above and below, and vice versa. So it's really a system. So that's why when we have some symptoms in the pelvic floor, it's always great to address the entire system. It's just a way for our body to communicate. Well, it's not just that and down there, but what about the system that affects above and below? But anyway, we're gonna explore that a little bit more. So I invite you to start your exploration by moving. So we come to our hands and knees. And this is sometimes a warm-up practice that I do before I do my squats or when I teach my clients squatting. So we're gonna come to our hands and knees. And we're going to be focusing on the area of the sit bones. So I'm just going to gently tuck under, bringing your tailbone down and under, and then lift it up. Not so that you're excessively arching and kind of dropping everything down, but just going to slightly bring that tailbone up. And this is not a child's pose in yoga. You're not going to be touching your heels. But what I want you to do here, as you inhale, you're just going to gently start shifting your pelvis back, keeping that tailbone up, and see if you can start feeling your sit bones widening, and there is that sense of lengthening through your glutes. And then come back up on exhale. So now I'm talking, so make sure you're moving with your breath. So I'm gonna inhale and exhale. And if you're not quite feeling that moment, so go ahead and place your hand onto your sit bone. Just gonna find that bony part, okay, of the sit bone, and see if you can shift back and just notice how there is that sense of scooping down and away, or kind of under and away. So just gonna, I guess, connect with your sense of how it feels. And of course, the sides can be very different. So you can definitely bring your hand into your other sit bone and just gently feel it. And it's very important to connect with that because this is an opportunity for lengthening those pelvic floor muscles and the muscles that surround the pelvic floor. That's why the squatting position matters so much, because when we're going down in the squat, we have that opportunity for lengthening. And when the muscles lengthen, they can strengthen, they can contract and strengthen. So that's why it's always a relationship of lengthening and strengthening. All right. And of course, you can practice squatting and do that in your squat. So hopefully you enjoyed that experience. That's why it's very much glute-driven motion in the squat. So, but when your pelvis is not in the right position, just like you noticed when you're tucked under, it's going to be hard to lengthen that area. Okay, so we're going to be lying down on a back, and I'm just using a blanket for my head. You can use it too for a sense of comfort. Okay. And again, we're going to be bringing our awareness to our pelvis. And right now, what I want you to visualize is a diamond shape here, okay? The front of the diamond is your pubic bone. The back of the diamond is your tailbone. And also kind of that in the back shape of the diamond, there are two sit bones. Okay, so just a diamond. And we're going to start creating gentle and soft pelvic tilts. So you're going to start moving your back of the diamond, the tailbone, towards the pubic bone. And you might feel how the tailbone is peeling off the floor. So you might feel more pressure in your back and sacrum against the floor. And then you're going to start moving your front part of the diamond, so the pubic bone, towards the tailbone, towards the back of the diamond. Feeling your tailbone pressing gently into the floor, and you might create a little bit more arch in the back. So just try to do your best not to flare your ribs out. So we're not going to the motion of this. So where my whole spine comes for that pelvic tilt. And if you feel it's hard for you to keep that, just elevate the pillow for your head, but make sure you're not compressing it either. Like, oh, I'm gonna keep my ribs down. That's not good for the pelvic floor. Okay, so let's go back to our diamond. So tailbone towards the pubic bone, nice and relaxed. Notice if you are clenching your glutes. And I want you to do your best to relax the glutes, but then be aware that maybe it's your common habit, which again, it's not great to keep the muscles in constant contraction. So, but notice if you are doing that throughout the day quite a bit. All right. And we are moving those muscles that are located between the front and the back of the pelvis. So that's why movement is so important, and muscles move bones. And just notice if it feels fluid to you. Next, we're going to our different movement in the pelvis. You're going to find your pelvic bones and you're going to imagine that they are kind of holding marbles, and you're going to be moving marbles or hip bones one towards the other. So it's going to be kind of going like that. So you're going to be rolling your marbles from like left hip bone to the right, from the right hip bone to the left. And notice if your knees start kind of doing this. Try to keep your knees still and just really allow the pelvis to kind of drop the marble towards the floor on one side while the other one is up, and then switch. Notice how also the weight changes in your hips. So one hip becomes more grounded than the other as the marbles are going kind of side to side. And from here, you choose if you just want to create circles in your pelvis, which you'll be connecting all those movements together, or you can go harder and make figure eights. So your choice. So I'm doing circles. So let's say I'm gonna start from the tailbone, then rolling the marble to my right hip bone, then going to the left hip bone and the tailbone again. And then if you're doing figure eight or circles, change. And again, keep noticing what is tensing up for you. Are you tensing up your tongue, your eyes, your belly, your glutes, your feet, your toes? Just notice. That means you just need to do this practice a little bit more often, connecting with your pelvic floor. And then go ahead and just relax, take a moment, notice. And then from here, we'll bring our left knee towards the body. You're just going to place your hand on your knee and start making circles. As you're making circles, I want you to not just kind of tip over. So keep the other side of the pelvis on the floor. And notice how the leg just takes over and starts moving. I want you to use your hand and let that leg, let that hip kind of relax, and use your power of the hand, strength of the hand to move your heavy leg. And just notice how that feels. And then change the direction. So our hips, of course, are kind of direct muscles after the pelvic floor muscles. So everything we do with hips is always beneficial for the pelvis. All right, and then relax. Bring your right knee in and also do the same here. Notice if your one leg is more, is more cooperating with your arm moving the leg and not the leg moving the arm. And then change your direction. All right, and just place your foot to the floor. Notice how this all feel. Adjust. Notice where you're still carrying your tension. And if it's now nowhere, that's great. So next we'll be going to our lower core muscles, which have a direct correlation to kind of like the front of the pelvis and that bladder control as well. So you're gonna move your feet away, just maybe a few inches, again without super arching in your back. And you're gonna place your palms on your pelvic bones and fingers just kind of towards each other. And then from here, we're going to inhale. Try to inhale into your rib cage, maybe into the back of the ribs, and then exhale. Inhale. Just begin to notice how your rib cage is expanding, your sides expanding, and perhaps you feel how your pelvic bones are kind of also expanding, moving away. Then as you are exhaling, so begin to notice how the pelvic bones are moving in, and there is that sense of lifting up. So as I mentioned earlier, that's that sump pump motion of when the diaphragm and the pelvic floor move together. On inhale, the diaphragm and the pelvic floor move downward. The pelvic floor muscles relax, soften, and lengthen. And technically, you should not be able to squeeze them on the inhalation that has that sump up motion. And then on the exhale, everything moves in the opposite direction. So that's your opportunity to kind of squeeze if you're going for that squeeze. Or right now, we're just trying to really focus on the lower core muscles. And of course, you cannot really like isolate them 100%. When you start contracting them, you might feel a contraction in the pelvic floor as well. But right now, what I want you to visualize is a string that is between your pelvic bones. And when you're inhaling, that string kind of stretches out a little bit. And as you exhale, you're trying to tighten that string as you're trying to bring your pelvic bones towards the center. Inhale and exhale. And if you're okay, you can move your feet a little bit more, so that just gonna put your core muscles here that we're working on into a little bit more action. And you might even feel them getting tighter just by you moving the feet away. And that's the best opportunity for our pelvic floor to be nurtured and nourished. Just connecting with the breath and the natural movement of breathing and moving kind of everything around. So we're going to try to explore the back of the pelvis, and you'll be to your side. So you can definitely have your head on your blanket or just simply support your head with your hand. Okay. So we will be finding our sit bones. Well, one sit bone, so just on one side here. Just kind of place your hand on your bum there and start moving the leg. And as you're moving the leg, you will have a distinct, hopefully, you'll have a distinct sensation of your sit bone because you're going to feel the movement. Then just kind of know that you are on the right track. You found your sit bone, the back of your pelvis, the back of that diamond shaped pelvis. And from here, so you can maybe hold your leg. So have your hand on the sit bone. If it's really tiring, you can definitely place your hand leg down or maybe on a bolster. And see if you can connect with a sense of breath in the back of your pelvis. Again, you're going to try to inhale, feeling that rib cage expanding. Your pelvis is also expanding. And you might feel your fingers here are also kind of slightly pushed out. And then as you exhale, the fingers are getting pulled in. And there is that upward motion that's going all the way up. So you can definitely bring your blanket here, find your sit bone, and be a little bit more relaxed so you can notice your breath. So just use your fingers to apply just gentle pressure on the sit bone so that when you inhale, and if your breath is in sync, and also if you are connected, you will feel that sense of pushing the fingers out on inhalation and pulling it in on exhalation. On inhale, the pressure goes downward. Remember, that's the state of relaxation and lengthening. And on the exhale, the pressure goes upward, and that's the sense of contracting and sort of strengthening. And it's a great massage for this whole system. Okay, from here, we're gonna go to the other side because you probably already know your sides are different and you might feel them different, or they're just gonna give you different feedback. That's perfectly fine. So I'm gonna stay here. And again, find that sit bone and then just start moving the leg. So you're gonna feel the movement. And then again, put your leg maybe on a bolster or a blanket, find that sit bone and just see if you can connect with that sense of breathing here as well. So that area down there can be your friend and you can establish a great relationship with it instead of not being sure or not being clear of what's going on, even though it's such an amazing area of the body that participates in so many functions. And we learned about 5 of them today. All right. So hopefully you were connecting. Um, so yeah, just kind of whatever you felt and whatever difference you felt in your pelvic floor muscles there, just in sensations in your sit bones. Just going to use that as your information, as your awareness. Okay. All right. So we're going to go back to our pelvic tilts here just to see if they feel a little bit smoother or a little bit more connected or a little bit more clear in our brain. So let's just go ahead and quickly review our diamond, moving it front to back. And also begin to notice, or just even place your hand on your head and just notice how that movement in the pelvis is also making my whole spine and my head move. And if you want to spend a little bit more time here, you can even notice, well, which way your head is moving when my pelvis moves this way, or which way my head is moving when the pelvis moves the other way. So I'm not going to answer these questions for you, but you just observe on your own and perhaps connect with that. And now the down there motion in the feet. So again, as I'm moving my pelvis front to back, back to front, how is it reflecting in my feet? So which way my pelvis move, that gives me a sense of pulling the feet in towards my body, and which way my pelvis moves, so I feel my feet are kind of pushing away from my body. You might even feel a gentle sense of hamstring contracting, or maybe your quads, upper thighs. So see how cool is that? That we have the center of our body, that secretive kind of part, the down there, the pelvic floor, but how everything is going to be affecting that center and how center is going to be affecting down and up. And then go ahead and review those marbles, rolling them side to side. Just again, notice if this motion becomes more familiar, smoother, in your repertoire of movement. This is a wonderful practice after a long day at work, driving, traveling, or when you feel kind of off, or you just want to connect with that amazing part of the body that we have. Just go ahead and relax. You don't have to do the figure eight or circles unless you have time and want to do them. That's fine. But hopefully you felt some difference in your pelvis and also notice how this movement amazingly affects the entire body. It's just fascinating. And now I'm going to bring both knees in just to finish the practice. And I want you to have your hands on top of your knees. And again, we're going to finish with some breathing, like that sun pump motion. So as you inhale, just try to inhale into the back of your rib cage, into the back of the pelvis, and notice the sensations there. And as you exhale, I want you to exhale with the sound. And then without really moving your legs, like really using your hands and just moving them, see if you can actually feel how the legs move when you breathe. See if you can kind of notice that natural sense of where the legs want to go. I'm going to give you just a couple of breaths here to sort of connect with that. Perhaps you feel when you're inhaling and everything expanding, creating space for the air to come in, you feel that natural sense of the legs kind of moving away. And then as you're exhaling and everything is just drawing in, creating actually more space for the legs to come in towards the body. So if you haven't noticed that, maybe try to do a few more breaths and see if you can connect with that same motion. Inhale, and the legs want to kind of slightly move away, and exhale, 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 the legs want to move in. And of course, you don't have to move your legs like that all the time. So you can definitely vary with different possibilities of breathing. This is just what we are experiencing right now and exploring this practice. Notice if you have a sense of too much pressure in your tailbone, how that feels. Is there any pain? And then bring your one foot to the floor and then the other. And then from here, just relax your legs and maybe open them wide if that feels okay. Or bring them together, use a bolster for the knees, whatever you need to do for your Shavasana. And I want you to spend here just a few moments, perhaps smiling that you have connected, hopefully, with another amazing part of your body. And just that awareness, that connection can change how you move, how you stand, how you're lying down. So spend a few minutes here, just breathe, relax, restore. And when you come up, just kind of notice, do I feel different? Try not to figure it out what exactly feels different. Just kind of feel, I don't know, it's like it's a different sense in me. And that's fine. So I'm not gonna stay here with you to take Shavasana in silence. Um, Stay there, enjoy this experience, and thank you for exploring the down there with me here. And if you have any comments, just let me know.